and we will archive both the audio and the video, which you'll see in a minute, the screen, for your future reference on the Office of Sponsored Programs website. And I'll try to send that in the chat box to everybody, that web address, before we finish out. So I'm just going to show my screen now. And you should now be seeing on your screen the Pivot homepage. And at the top of the page is the URL that you'll want to copy down, which is pivot.cos.com. You don't need the www, just start off with pivot.cos.com. And if any of you want to follow along and pull this up and use this as you go, you can do that, and you can hopefully track what I'm doing. So what you should see when you bring that up on your screen, either now or later, is this exact page. And just to tell you a little bit about what Pivot is and what I'm planning to accomplish today, Pivot is a subscription database of external funding opportunities that the Chicago School subscribes to for the use of all the students, faculty, and staff of the Chicago School. So you don't have to worry about a subscription or paying any access fee or anything like that. It's covered. All you'll need to do is sign up to log in for your own account. So Pivot is a tool, I should say. Today's presentation is not designed to identify any particular funding opportunities for you or to teach you how to write a proposal or anything like that. I will have some other presentations that get a little farther into that. But today is really designed to teach you to use the tool. Someone says that they're having difficulty seeing the screen. Are you logged in? If you're not logged in to GoToMeeting, you may not be able to see my screen. Are others seeing the screen? I'll stop for a minute and see. Okay. Yeah, if you're not seeing the screen, I think you probably need to either log into GoToMeeting or maybe log back out and log in again and give that a try. So I apologize if you're having technical difficulties. Hopefully you can at least hear me and then access the recording later. Anyway, Pivot is a database of funding opportunities. It has thousands of opportunities, and they're updated on a regular basis daily as new opportunities come in or things change. They include funding opportunities for all types of work, whether it's research, whether it's service, whether it's scholarships, and opportunities from all types of funders, whether they're federal government, state and local governments, private foundations, corporations, other types of organizations, the whole gamut. So it's a very comprehensive database that can serve a lot of different purposes. And you'll see as we go along what the opportunities look like. So just to get started, the first thing that you'll need to do when you get to this page is to sign up. And you see the sign up link in the top right-hand corner. When you click on that link, it will take you to a page that says you can create a Pivot account. And you'll need to fill in the fields that are here, your name, your Chicago School email address, a password of your choice, and then you'll need to select the Chicago School from this long list of institutions. I believe it's under the at the bottom. So you'll do that, and then you click on the Create My Account button. And this will send you to a page that will confirm your registration, and it will also send an email to your email account. And before you can log in, you'll need to go into your email and click on a link to just reconfirm your registration. So that's step one. And any of you who have done this already or who do it now can of course do that. And once you've done that, then you'll be able to go back to the home page and go to the login link. And this is where you'll enter that email address that you used, will be your login ID and your password. So I am already registered. I'm logging in right now. And hopefully you all saw the screen change now to what is now going to be a kind of a dashboard, a pivot homepage dashboard. And you'll know that you're logged in because you'll see the Chicago School at the top. This indicates that it's our subscription. And you'll also see your name at the top as well. So at the top of the page, you'll always see, you'll actually see 3 tabs. I have 4. You'll see a home page, which is the little house. And my page looks like this. Yours will look a little different. You'll see a funding tab, which should look the same for you. And you'll see a profiles tab. And we're not going to talk today about profiles. That's a separate part of the database. I am going to do a webinar on the profiles portion of the database. But what it does is list and index faculty and students from institutions around the country, including you if you so choose, and matches your research interests that you input to opportunities in the system. So more about that in a separate webinar if you're interested in finding out how to do that. For today, I'm going to go just to the home page, which is the first thing that will come up for you. And you'll see on the home page, you won't see the kinds of things that I have on my page, but you will see these tabs on the side. You'll see a tab for active opportunities, and I'll explain what these are later, but you'll be able to index active funding opportunities, tracked opportunities that you want to track. You'll be able to index searches that you save. You'll be able to index opportunities that you share with other people. You'll be able to index opportunities that you receive. And if you have a profile, you'll even have opportunities that are linked under the advisor. So these are the things that you should see on your home page, minus all the list of opportunities that I have here. That will come. You'll also see at the bottom, as you start to use the page, you can tag things. So I have a number of tags here. So that's why my page looks the way it does. As I said, you'll probably just see a fairly blank page, but you will have these links here available for your use as you go along. The most important thing that everybody's here for today, I think, is the funding opportunities link. So this is where we're going to spend the vast majority of our time. And if you click on funding at the top, it brings up a page that should look just like this. You should see at the top of every page, whether it's the home page, the funding page, the profiles page, you should see a quick search box. And this is handy if you don't know where you're going and just want to do a quick search. That will always be there, and you can always use that. This main page has some things that may be helpful at some point, but it may be just something you want to breeze over. The system and the editors of the system index the most popular funding opportunities that people searched for. They index some things they call editors' picks. They index some health science funding opportunities that are new or notable, and they index some humanities and social science funding news. Now, these may or may not have anything to do with the Chicago School. They're just global opportunities that the editors choose. So, so those will be there. And again, you'll also see your search box. But what you'll see at the top of the page is a search by text or search by sponsor option. And search by text is just what it sounds like. We're going to use it in just a second. It's a free text search where you can enter any text of your choosing. Search by sponsor allows you to search by a sponsor name if you happen to know the sponsor. It allows you actually to look at the list of all the sponsors that are in this database. If you want if you want to know how many sponsors there are, or look at a list of sponsors, that's available. There's also an opportunity to look at all of the U.S. federal government sponsors, and they're indexed alphabetically, so you can see all the different federal agencies and departments. And then the other option here, the other option here under the search by sponsor is the non-U.S. federal. That would be everything else that's in the database. So, so if you're in need of finding a particular sponsor, or just want to look at what a particular sponsor has to offer, you have that option, and you have also the option to search the sponsors. But what most people do, I think, and what I always do is some kind of a text search. So that's what I'm going to primarily focus on at this point. And I obviously encourage you to try this yourself, try sponsor searches if that's useful, and really just experiment with the database. But to show you how the search works, I'm going to set up a basic text search. And I'm going to use something that's not necessarily going to be relevant maybe to many people at all Chicago School, but it's just a fun search just to show you the kinds of things that are here. I worked with someone in music therapy, so that's why this came to mind. But I'm going to search with the term music. And I'm just going to start with that basic search and see what comes up if you search for it. So you'll see this gives us a pretty long list of opportunities that have the word music somewhere in their name. So you could do this with anything that's relevant to you. But in terms of music, we get 792 results. It's a pretty good length. And maybe you say, hey, I'm really happy with that. I'm really happy with what came out, and I want to save this. And I like this search, and I don't want to have. I want to be able to run this search again and go back and look at this list again. Someone's indicating they're having trouble hearing me. Are others having difficulty? Anyone else? No? Okay. Again, if you're having technical problems with the sound, you might want to try to log in and out. I'll just try to be as close to the speaker as I can. Okay. So let's say that you like the 792 results, and you want to save this search. Right at the top of your list, you have a Save Search link, and I'm going to go ahead and save my search on music. And I'm going to call it music. And I have the option of choosing to receive an email on every week that tells me any updated opportunities, anything that was in the search before that's been changed, and anything new that comes out. So I'm going to save my music search. So we'll go back to the home page in a little bit and see where that shows up so you know where to find it. But let's also say that you got the 792 results and you said, wow, that's way too many. I can't deal with that. There's probably a lot of things in there that aren't relevant to me. How can I narrow this down? There's a couple of things you can do. On every search list page, you'll have the links at the left here. These are what the system calls search facets. And this is where you can narrow down the type of opportunity that's here in various ways. For example, if you are looking for funding for training or scholarship or fellowship in music, it's telling us here that there are 226 of these opportunities, a subset of this group. If you're a faculty member and you're looking for a program or curriculum development funds in music, it's telling you that 190 of these fall in that area. If you're looking for research funds, similarly 175, and so forth. So this kind of categorization will be there for you. You can do the same thing with the types of sponsors. You can also look at what the requirements are for an applicant. For example, if you are a early career or new faculty member, 252 of these are specifically designed for you. If you're a graduate student, 210 of them. And if you want to narrow it down a little further in terms of keywords that apply, performing arts, 190 of these. Actually, visual arts also fall 165 of these. So there's some ways that you can narrow this down, and I'll show you what happens if we do that. Let's just choose graduate student, for example. Graduate students can apply for 210 of these. So if we click on graduate student, we've now narrowed our results down to the 210 that are relevant out of the 700 and some that were originally there. And if this is a better search for you, you can now save this search, and you might call it something else, or you might have not saved the first search. So, so that's one way that it allows you to narrow your search. And the other option, and I'm just going to go back to my 792, if you see that this is too many results and what you really want to do is refine the search even further, what you can do is click on Refine Search. And this basically takes us to what's called an advanced search screen. And as you see here, you do have music still in one of the fields, but you now have a lot of other opportunities to add different limitations to your search. And what this does is it does narrow down what you're finding. And every time that you add another limitation, you do have opportunities that will drop off the list. So there may be some cases where you want to have the broadest search possible, and I encourage you to play with it and see what level of narrowing is appropriate. I can't speak that every opportunity is going to be narrowed in a specific way, but if, for example, you are a graduate student and you need to apply for opportunities that graduate students are eligible for, that's a reasonable thing to limit for. If for example, that if you narrowed something down in terms of further keywords, you might drop some things off because they don't have all the keywords that you narrowed it to. So it really varies from case to case. But just to show you how this will work, you have a whole lot of different free text fields. And what we're doing right now is we're matching all of the fields that we choose. You also have the option of matching any of the fields. In other words, we will either link the search terms by and or by or. And obviously matching any of the fields will give you a much broader result than trying to match all of the fields. So in this case, I'm going to choose or, and I'll show you what some of the options are. You can now choose music, and you can choose music or, let's say, arts. And let's see. That might give us music or arts in terms of therapy. And let's see what else we'll do here. These other fields allow you to match things like amounts, and you can select if you know that you need a certain amount of money to do the work. You can search for grants more than a certain amount and enter that amount, or less than. But you don't have to limit the amount at all. You can do the same thing with deadlines. If you know that you won't have time to write a proposal if the deadline is less than 90 days away, you can select proposals that start on or after a certain date, or on or before if you know that you need to get the proposal in right away. Again, you don't need to use deadlines at all, but that's an option. Limited submission usually refers to institutional grants, so I'm going to leave that one aside for right now. Activity location may be important to you if you're international. If you have an international project, for example, you may need to search for activities that can take place in certain locations. And the system allows you this More Locations link where you can look at all the different choices of individual countries. It has an extensive, very comprehensive list of countries and various other locations. So that may be important in some cases, but if you want to look at unspecified locations, you can also do that. If you are a non-U.S. citizen or a citizen of a particular nationality, that might be important to limit for some people, and so you can limit the citizenship requirements to grants that if a non-U.S. citizen can apply for. Now, many of these grants are U.S. federal government, as we saw, and those are probably primarily going to be open to U.S. citizens. So that's one reason you might want to filter those out. On the other hand, there are other national governments and other organizations that may have grants that are open to citizens of other countries. So if you are a non-U.S. citizen, you may find things that way. Funding type is important for those, if you're a student who is looking for dissertation funding, you have an option for dissertation, which I'm actually going to choose in this case just to see what we get. If you're a student about to graduate and you're looking for postdoctoral money, there's that choice. But there are many other options, collaborative agreements, contracts, equipment grants, facilities grants, meetings, curriculum development, as we saw before, publications, research, scholarship, travel, visiting personnel. Those are some of the choices. So I've narrowed this one in terms of funding type. As you can see, I've got dissertation or thesis. Keyword is probably one of the most useful limitations of advanced search here. So I want to show you the thesaurus that's here and show you the easy way to actually search the thesaurus, which is to just start typing a word in this box. And since I started with music, I'm going to continue with that. We've got music, and it shows us all the different parts of this thesaurus, keywords, where the word music appears. One of which at the end is art or music therapy. And since that was the original interest that I drew this from, I'm going to choose that as my other limitation here. Some other things that you can include, requirements. This is going to be similar in some cases to, this is going to be probably parallel to the funding type. If you are a graduate student, you're going to be looking for certain types of funding. If you are a new faculty member, there's probably certain funding types you're looking for, et cetera. So, so that's another place that you may want to limit. If you are searching for dissertation funding, it's probably also going to be graduate students. So you may not need to do both, but just to be aware of that option as well. And sponsor type, if you want to look for funding only from a certain type of sponsor, like foundations or non-U.S. government sponsors, you have the option of choosing those sponsor types. And then as if that weren't enough, you actually have the opportunity to exclude any of these same fields from above. You can set up any number of free text terms that you want to exclude from your search. You can exclude deadlines of a certain time period, and really basically all of the same things that we just ran above. So what we have now is a funding search that is for music or arts, those terms in anywhere in the opportunity, for dissertation or thesis, or for art or music therapy. And so let's see what this gets us. So this is actually, it's actually expanded things a little bit because I've added the or, and that's why it made it broader and gave us a few more opportunities. But it may also actually give us a little more relevance to the music therapy because of that key word in there. And so as you see at the top, the things that are coming up first are primarily student awards for music therapy. So that's what my refined advanced search has done for me. And just as before, we have the same facets on the side where we can narrow things down. 793 of the 801 results, almost all of them are for dissertation or thesis. So they're all very relevant to what I was looking for. As you would expect, most of them are also for research, since dissertation or thesis is often research. And there are also almost many of them are also characterized under training, scholarship, or fellowship, which is also common for dissertation or thesis funding. So, so that came up pretty well. We can also see that almost all of them are things that graduate students can apply for. And interestingly, there's some interesting findings here. Probably not relevant to you, but 124 of them are actually also categorized under American history. So probably in the arts field. So if you were searching for music therapy, you would have a lot of things to look at. This may be a little too broad to go through the whole list, so you might want to play with this a little further and maybe change these ors to ands to make it a little more manageable. But it will give you a good idea of what's in the database and how you would find things that are relevant. So now that we've got a list, I'm going to focus on what you see here. And first of all, you again have 801 results. And right now, this list is sorted by relevance, how well they match terms of my search. But you can also resort it alphabetically by title. You can sort the list by sponsor name. You can sort it by deadline, either soonest to latest or latest to soonest. And you can also sort it by amount, highest to lowest or lowest to highest, depending on your needs. And so there also are some things you can do right from this list before you even start clicking on any of these opportunities. You can start to get an idea of which ones you like, which ones will work the best for you. Next to every single opportunity on the list, you see a little square with a magnifying glass. And if you click on that, without jumping away from the page, it starts to give you an abstract and the eligibility for that opportunity. You also have a hyperlink on the deadline, and the same thing here. It gives you a little bit more information about the deadline, if there are pre-application dates, if there are mandatory dates, and things like time of day that things are due, and so forth. If there are multiple deadlines, this one is probably a two-stage, but if there are multiple deadlines, when you can apply every 6 months, it should give you all of those deadlines. And then finally, the amount. And it will tell you things like whether the award is cash, whether it's an award for certain types of funding, something like tuition, or whether it's funding for salary. That kind of information will be here, and also how many awards might be given. So this first opportunity is a scholarship, and I'm just going to choose it as a way to show you what's in the database. Now you'll obviously have your own interests and your own things you want to look for, and scholarships may not be for you if you're not a student, but it will still give you a good idea of how the database works. So we're going to look at the Edwina Eustace Dick Scholarship for Music Therapy Interns from the American Music Therapy Association. And when I click on the title, it takes me to the opportunity page. And the opportunity page gives me a unique ID for this opportunity within the database. It tells me that this is for training, scholarship, or fellowship, and it tells me the last time that the editors went in and looked at this opportunity. So this one we can be pretty confident is fairly up to date, since it was just edited within the last few weeks. Below that, it gives you a page with full details of the opportunity, starting with the website for the funder itself, which, of course, once you've identified a pretty solid opportunity, you want to go there and not rely on what's in Pivot as being the last word. The funder is obviously the last word. The sponsor, American Music Therapy, the amount, and many of these things we've seen on the front page. The requirements for application, this is something that graduate and undergraduate students are eligible for with unrestricted citizenship. The activities have to take place in the United States. A very brief abstract. In some cases, the abstract will be a paragraph or more, really giving you a little more information than this does. And a little bit more about the eligibility. And in this case, things like membership in the association are eligibility criteria. And then finally, the keywords that this opportunity is indexed under. And in this case, it's just the one keyword that we selected, but you'll often see 5 or more keywords, and that can be another good way to narrow or expand your search as you find keywords that are relevant to your particular interests. You can then cross-list and check for other opportunities that have those keywords. Below that is the upcoming deadlines, just as we saw from the front page. And then over on the right-hand side, you'll have contact information for the funder. And this, like the website, is very key if you have any questions after you've looked at Pivot and after you've looked at the website. Obviously, the funder contact is the place to go with questions that aren't addressed anywhere else. So you've seen all that, but now I want to show you some of the really interesting and useful things that you can do with opportunities that are in the database. You saw when I first logged in that I had a long list of opportunities that were on my tracked list. And this is actually one of them. I had clicked on track, and that's why this flag here is red and why it says tracking. It means that this opportunity is on my list that I am tracking. Tracking can mean whatever you want it to mean. I think the database usually defines it as a long list of things you want to keep track of. If you want to then track something as active, you can click on the active link. Actually, I can't do that from here. I need to do that elsewhere. But if you wanted to start off by making this an active opportunity that you wanted to apply for and keep track of as immediate opportunities, you also have the option to do that. You also, from this screen, can share an opportunity. If you find something that you know a colleague or a friend would really like to know about, you can click on Share, and it will pop down this little box. And here you type in the name or the email address of the recipient. If it's someone who has logged in and has an account with Pivot, their name may pop up as you start to type their name. But if not, you can always type in their email address. And if you want, you can give them a little message about why you're sending this. If you have multiple people, you can send it to more than one, and you can either let them all see each other's names or not. And if you're really bold, you can put it right on their tracked list if you want to. So, so those are some choices for things you can do with the share. You can add some tags to help yourself categorize opportunities. You can see other people who are getting this opportunity, and you can see more opportunities that are like this. So let's go back to my home page now. Since I'm tracking this opportunity and I originally had saved a search, you should be able to find these on the list. So let's see. Oh, before I do that, I apologize. Let me go back a page. I'm going to go back to my funding, my original search list. I apologize for all the clicking around. But this was my 801 results for music therapy and dissertation work. So from this list, you can also do some other tracking and saving of results. So, for example, you think, okay, this one was a good one, I've tracked that, but I also want to track these three. If you click the check boxes, you have the option to track those, to set them to active, to share them, and then also what we haven't seen before is to export them. So if I wanted to export those three opportunities, I can send myself a file, or I can download a file in HTML, in Excel, in a number of different formats that I can download and then save on my hard drive. So that's another option for keeping opportunities if you want to do that rather than track them. But in this case, I think I'm going to set some to active so we can see the active screen. And so I have these three opportunities selected, and I'm going to set them to active. Again, I get an option to get an email if they've been updated, and I can tag them. And I've got a long list of tags here. I'm going to add a new one so that I can find them again. I'm going to call it music. And now I've set these three opportunities to active as an example. So now I think I'm ready to go back to the home page. I went a little prematurely before, and show you what we've done. So my home page defaults to the tracked opportunities, and somewhere on this page, on this long list, should be, look on the second page. Here we go. Here is the Edwina Eustace Dick Scholarship that I had just tracked from the previous page. So here again, I can share this opportunity. If I click the checkbox, I can share it with other people from here. I can see, again, the deadline. I can see, because there's a little email here, that I'm getting alerts on this opportunity, that I will get an email if anything changes. And then I have some other options. Another place where I can share it, a place where I can untrack it if I decide I don't want this on my list anymore. A way that I can move it to active, which is what I'm going to do right now. We'll do that in a second here. A way to add a tag to it. Turn the email alert off. I can turn on a reminder that will give me a specific email 2 weeks before the deadline. I can see if I shared it with anyone, and I can see if anyone else has it on their active or tracked list. So there are just so many options for things you can do with this database, you know, some of this may not be useful to you right now, but hopefully as you use it, you'll find more ways that you can use it in ways that help you. So I'm going to go ahead and move this one to active, and I'll say yes. And now I'm going to jump over to my active list. And here you see I don't have nearly as many things on my active list. But I do have the Arthur Flagler Fultz Award. I don't see my music tab. That's one flaw here, is that I added a tag for music and it's not showing up. But the Arthur Flagler Fultz Award, the music scholarship, this scholarship that I've just moved over, and I believe the development scholarship were all ones from the same organization that we just tagged before and moved to active. And the same holds here. You can share them. You have the choices to track them, untrack them, categorize them in various ways. You do have also a way to narrow things down based on tags. Like I've tagged one opportunity as APA because that's the sponsor. And if I check my tagged box for APA, I get just that opportunity. The other thing we did very early on, if you recall, was to save a search. And I have a number of saved searches. And here's my saved search for music. If I click on the search, it brings up all the results that were just found today, or it can bring up the entire list of results from every time that the search has run. So I can get just the newest results, or I can get the full list again. And this list works the same way as all the other lists in terms of sorting, in terms of information that you can get from your saved search. So I'll go back to my saved searches. Under my saved searches, right now it's showing me 0 because it hasn't run anything new since I just ran it. And none of them are limited submission. Again, that's an institutional criterion that you don't need to worry about. But it will give you a number here every time it runs a new search, which happens every week. On a Sunday night, Monday morning is when, if you save a search and ask for an email update, that's when you'll get new alerts. So, so this one obviously hasn't had a chance to run again. You can, just as before, you can have an email alert turned on or off. You can share your whole search. You can edit your search. In other words, refine it further, change it. You can add tags to your search. You can view all the archived results, and you can delete your search. So you have lots of options there. As I said before, you do have a shared tab, and this is something that I use a lot, but you may or may not use. But these are the most recent opportunities that I have shared with other people, so that I can go back and find them if someone asks me about them. If you receive searches from others, you'll have opportunities received list, and then finally, if you have a profile, which my future webinar we'll talk about, you'll be able to have an advisor match that matches your profile with your searches. Let's see. Before I ask if there are any questions, the last thing that I wanted to show you in the webinar today is all of the wonderful help and support that's available. Beyond what I can do at a minimum with this webinar and the archive of this webinar, is Pivot does have a help screen, and it's fairly comprehensive. At the top of the page where you log in, you'll see a help button, and then if you're also at the bottom of the page, there's another link for support and help. So if you click on help, this takes you to the Pivot support page, and you can actually query the system and search for help with a particular topic, and it will try to take you there. You can also browse all of the sort of basic functions that you might do, and a lot of this today I know that I've breezed through, and you may have a lot of questions or want to go back and figure it out all over again. You can actually view and print a PDF article on any of these topics. Each of these hyperlinks is its own PDF article. Some of them are 8-10 pages long that give you a step-by-step, like I've tried to do, but that you can actually print out and look at for getting started, for some of the FAQs, what's on the home pages, how to do the funding searches. If you are interested in the profiles and aren't able to take part in the webinar, there's some step-by-steps on using the profiles page. And then there's online training. Now you won't have the admin section here on your page, so you can just ignore that on my screen. But in terms of online training, you have Pivot webinars that are run by the editors of Pivot. Pivot has a YouTube channel, and there's a quick start guide as well. So in terms of webinars, this is going to take us to another screen, so bear with me. Okay, it takes me to one page, and then to register for a webinar, it will take us out of the system to a whole list of webinars. These are done by the company that runs Pivot, and so they are done by experts in the system. So if what I'm saying doesn't make any sense or you want a refresher, you have a whole slew of options of places and times to view those, and then also some recordings. Just go back a step. Pivot on YouTube. Similarly, takes us to a YouTube page, and these are videos that the editors of Pivot have recorded that will also have video and audio walking you step by step through all of these different functions. So there are multiple videos that they've developed and archived here as well. And then at the very bottom, similarly is another way to get to the YouTube channels. There are a few things over here. Every time Pivot is revised, it has a slightly new interface than some of you may have seen if you've logged in before. They have notes on what's changed, the instructional videos again, a way to submit a funding opportunity. If you know of something and you don't find it, you can do that, and then a way to contact their help desk. So that's my overview. I think I only had the one question, which was going back to the beginning about the level of narrowing that you need to do in a search. And I do encourage you to keep your searches pretty broad when you're starting and see how it works for you. Even if that means a pretty long list, you won't have the danger of missing opportunities. But as I said, there are specific things that, depending on your needs, you may want to filter for, like eligibility criteria in terms of citizenship or academic level, and oftentimes the type of funding that you need. For example, dissertation funding, or if you need travel funding, you may want to search specifically for those. So, so that's definitely my my suggestion. Also, similarly, to not have too many terms that you link by and, because if you are linking 5 or 6 different terms and asking the system to find all of them in one opportunity, the chances are fairly slim that you'll find all of them. The keywords that I showed you are a good way to do that because those are built into the system, so you know that those will appear, whereas the keywords that you might type in may or may not actually have a hit. So a question about who in our school might have expertise in an area that might be able to help us. Well, that's a question about profiles, and since we have a few minutes, I will just give you a quickie view of the profile system. And I am planning to do a much more detailed webinar on this. But we're going to do an advanced search so that we can try to find people at the Chicago school, and the suggestion was for diversity. So I'm going to search inside my institution and for the word diversity, and let's see what comes up. And this tells us that there are 54 profiles already entered in the system. Now these are people who have, faculty who have profiles on the Chicago School website whose names and profiles have just been pulled into the system. So you could also find these on our website. If you're not in this list and or if you're a student, I encourage you either contact me and I'll walk you through how to create a profile, or if you are able to come to the profiles webinar, I will certainly walk through how to do that at that time as well. So this is one option for you, just to go to do an advanced search, make sure the box for inside your institution is checked, and then search by whatever search term. Another question about creating and tracking many searches at the same time. That's up to you, honestly. If you think that you have multiple interests and they don't really overlap, you may want to have multiple searches. I certainly do, because I am often searching for options for various faculty or students at the same time. So, so that's why I have so many different saved searches and so many different tags on my tracked opportunities. But if you're primarily working in one area and you can come up with a search, and it may take some trial and error. You may run it 1 week and get an email and say these things don't apply at all, and you may want to go back in and edit it to make it fit better. That you may just need that one search. But if you have a couple different projects or interests in a couple different areas and they don't really overlap, then multiple searches would be a good idea. So that's a great question. And the ways that Pivot allows you to keep track of them really are the tags, for example. So for example, here on my home page with my tracked opportunities, I can just narrow down the ones that I've tracked that have to do with the ABA department because I've used that tag. Or I've tracked things, for example, that I think might apply to the community. Whoops, I didn't untag. Let's see. I've tracked things that I think might apply to the community partnerships department, so that I can see those. With the saved searches, I have names sometimes of faculty or students. You may see your own name in there if you have worked with me. And sometimes I have topics. So it allows you a lot of different ways to keep track of multiple things if that's a need that you have. Are there other questions? Anything else I can address, or else we can wind up a few minutes before 2 o'clock. So I'm also happy if you have questions as you start to use it. If you have questions as you go along, please please send me an email. One thing I will do before I log off is I'm going to put in the chat box the email, the URL for the Office of Sponsored Programs webpage, which is through EGO. And I'm sure we'll be migrating at some point to the new system, but for right now it's within EGO, and it's not an intuitive URL, so I want to send it to you so you can all pull it from there and copy and paste. So I'm putting it in. Okay, it's I put it in the chat box right now so that you can either link to it right now and bookmark it, or copy it for later. And this is where we'll have the recording of this webinar archived so that you can come back and refer to it if it's useful. So I hope this was helpful to everybody, and I really thank everyone for being part of the webinar today. And if you have other questions, please email me offline, and I'd be happy to help you. Thanks very much.